killing. What's up? I'm SYROBE, and this video is my take on the popular Flicker Strike build. I've gotten a ton of requests for a Flicker Strike build video, and I spent the last several days experimenting with Flicker Strike specifically. So for this video, I have two Flicker Strike builds. There is a budget Flicker Strike build and a maxed out version of the Flicker Strike build. If you picked up a few things from this video, be sure to check me out live on Twitch as I live stream every day testing builds in Path of Exile 2 with my community. Before we get into Flicker Strike builds, let's talk about Charge Staff and actually talk about the fact that you can have two of them active at the same time with completely separate buffs on them. I discovered this on my live stream a few days ago and showed how it works. To reiterate, I made one Charge Staff have a blind effect which would show up as a white dot, and then I made the other Charge Staff have electrocute buildup, which you can see below enemy's health bar. These are two visual indicators that let you know that both Charge Staffs are active and overlap and stack with each other. I had no other sources of blind or electrocute anywhere in my build or passive skill tree. However, when activating both Charge Staffs, you can clearly see both blind and electrocute visually represented, which should hopefully prove that using multiple Charge Staffs appear to actually stack and apply separate support gems at the same time. I'm not 100% certain how stacking Charge Staffs work with every support gem, but Occam's Razor suggests that if it works for these two, it should work for most other support gems. I'm also doubtful if you get double the damage output from using both Charge Staffs, but regardless, it should theoretically grant you double the amount of support gems on your Charge Staff, combining both of them all at once. There is a specific way to stack Charge Staffs. First, equip a single Charge Staff and hotkey the first one, and then equip a second Charge Staff with any other support gems and bonus effects you'd like. I'll have my build guide in the description below so you can see all my support gems, but be sure to check me out live on Twitch as it's all subject to change for further testing. Now that you have two Charge Staffs, both of these can proc on pretty much anything, allowing for double the support gem value since you can't use more than one of the same support gems anyways, but with this setup you can double dip into the Charge Staffs to gain separate support gems and share between them. You can make one apply statuses like shock, for example, or set up the other Charge Staff to execute enemies. It's really up to you, and if you find some insane synergy, be sure to let me know. Double Charge Staff works well on any monk melee skill, but especially with Flicker Strike, and can even Flicker Strike onto your Tempest spell to absolutely melt enemies with Tempest spell, Flicker Strike, and double Charge Staff Giga DPS. Using Flicker Strike will let you teleport to an enemy and hit them rapidly. Every hit will pump out both Charge Staff effects and deal tons of damage, deleting screens of enemies. However, the small drawback is that both Charge Staff and Flicker Strike consume power charges, and they share the same amount, which means to make this build work, you need to generate an ass load of power charges. So I have two methods. One for the budget Flicker and one for the main Flicker build, which I'll go over both now. For the budget Flicker Strike build, I believe it's best to use this version if you don't have enough spirit or enough jeweler orbs for the main version. This will be usable for most people since most will lack a lot of the necessary items to use for the main Flicker Strike builds. Again, for the budget build, you will mainly be utilizing Stormwave with the electrocute support gem to instantly electrocute enemies, which generates frenzy charges. Then with combat charge active, you must have the resonance keystone unlocked as well, located in your passive skill tree. This is the best way to use Flicker Strike on a budget build because you will have amazing clear and DPS, and any leftover charges will be used for Flicker Strike to finish off or clear out groups of enemies. But your main damage and DPS will come from Stormwave or Tempest Flurry, so it's kind of in the middle, allowing you the power and strength of Stormwave with a burst of damage from Flicker Strike, since that's what you'll spend any excess power charges on with this setup. You cannot use Profane Ritual with the budget build since Resonance will generate the incorrect charges. So for the budget build, we are sticking with our massive room clearing Stormwave, Tempest Flurry, Tempest Spell combo with a bonus for the Flicker Strike to be added into it. Again, this is for the budget build, as you will see the main build will look and play a lot differently. As for the main build, this is going to be more focused on maximizing Flicker Strike's value. Flicker Strike will be your main ability here with less of an investment into Stormwave. My setup is probably a lot different from most Flicker Strike setups that you might see, so allow me to explain why I prefer it this way. My Flicker Strike is set up to deal as much melee physical damage as possible, as Flicker Flicker Strike is raw physical damage. It can be forced to become ice or lightning damage, but for now we can just juice as much physical damage as possible from it. Flicker Strike will be supported by the 2 charge staffs, as each charge staff is doing different things. The first charge staff will be used to apply the shock debuff. Shock debuff is applied by the charge staff and allows us to deal 20% increased damage to enemies each time we hit with Flicker Strike for that bonus juice. The second charge staff is going to be our execute. This charge staff will help us finish off any targets that we might not have enough damage for, specifically executing larger enemies like yellow rare enemies and unique bosses. Those will be cold and instantly killed below certain HP thresholds. Our bonus execute will come from another gem actually named Execute. This support gem allows us to deal 40% bonus damage to any enemy below 35% of their maximum HP, ensuring that most enemies will die to our Flicker Strike rampage. The execute isn't on Flicker Strike itself, because if Flicker Strike doesn't do as much raw damage as possible, the enemies won't even be in range to be executed, so it's on the charge staff as an added bonus. You'll also notice a few spirit gem skills. These will cost you extra spirit, so make sure you have enough. I like the combo of Reaper's Invocation and Herald of Ash. Herald of Ash is extremely underrated and easier to explain. Basically, killing any enemy causes them to explode and ignite nearby enemies based on a percent of how much excess damage you killed them with. The harder you kill an enemy, the more damage Herald does. The Herald of Lightning and Herald of Ice aren't as good because they require you to shock or freeze a target to even activate. The Herald of Ash does not require anything. It doesn't require any fire damage or any ignite to activate, which is why I believe it's extremely underrated. If you had more spirit than me, you could also slot in Herald of Thunder alongside it to synergize with Herald of Ash for giga max damage and clear speed. And yes, I know Herald of Ash costs strength to use, so what I do is I craft Herald of Ash using a really low level spirit gem, since the numbers don't change that much from even a level 5 spirit gem to a higher level 13 spirit gem. The change in its value is pretty insignificant and saves you a lot of skill points, so it's best to just stick with a lower spirit gem for Herald of Ash. And lastly, we have the Reaper's Invocation. This is what's known as a meta spirit gem. Inside of it, we are going to insert Profane Ritual and Arcane Tempo. We are also going to equip a second Profane Ritual just to ensure that we always have the ability to generate power charges from a body. When you kill enemies, Reaper's Invocation builds up energy. Unlike other meta spirit gems, Reaper's Invocation is a manual cast, so when you kill enough enemies, you have to manually cast Reaper's Invocation each time. It's not automatic like most others, but unlike most others, you can actually store multiple casts in a single use, allowing you to cast Profane Ritual more than once at a time. But the best part is that you can use this while mid-flight on Flicker Strike, picking up every dead body as you go along, so by the time your Flicker Strike ends, you already have most of your power charges back to do it again. Again, if this helped at all, I am live streaming on Twitch every day, so go check me out there for the latest updates to all my Path of Exile 2 builds. Here's a good example of how you combine everything. Start off with Storm Wave to kill enough enemies and consume their corpses manually with Profane Ritual. You should have 2 Profane Rituals, one to use at any moment, and the other one inside Reaper's Invocation to be cast mid-flight on Flicker Strike. Keep in mind, Resonance is only for the budget build. You should not have Resonance active when you're using the main build. Only use Resonance for the budget build. Since this example is not the budget build, we generate enough charges with Profane Ritual. Use them to stack your first charge staff. Then once that's fully stacked, get some extra power charges to use the other charge staff at least once. You only need to cap the first charge staff, and the second charge staff should still be active as long as you give it a single power charge. Then after both charge staffs are active, farm up more power charges to get a full reserve of extra power charges. Once both charge staffs are active and your power charge reserve is full, that is when you're gonna cast Flicker Strike. While in mid-flight, be sure to spam Reaper's Invocation to collect all of the extra power charges while you fly across the map. Once you land, if your charge staff ran out, or if your power charge reserves are empty, refill them all with Profane Ritual, rinse and repeat. If you made it to the very end, be sure to watch me live on Twitch once again. All my guides and skill gems are in the description below. I've been SYROBE, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace. It's okay, I keep killing too. There we go. Boom. I love the execute though. I think the execute is super necessary. Just in case you don't get that extra like damage off, you're guaranteed to get the execute, like at the very least. If nothing else, you're guaranteed to get the execute off. Maybe you don't need 2 separate ones. Maybe you just do all like one main one. Maybe that's it. I feel like this is just going to kill me. I feel like I'm just going to die. I almost died. I actually almost died. I knew it. I actually almost died. Oh man, Flicker Strike is just so funny.